Hello, happy Chinese New Year. I wanted to take a moment to go over briefly a topic that I mentioned in my last couple videos about talking about what to do or when you don't have a lot of witchcraft tools or components at hand. And I talk about this briefly in my book, So Witchy, 13 Keys to Witchcraft. And I get into it in my very first chapter, the first key, which is resourcefulness. And so I'm going to read briefly from this, and then we're going to get into the nitty gritty. But before there was online shopping and 2-day shipping, witches worked with what they could find or make. Take, for example, candles and candle magic. Until the early 1800s, candles were expensive and smelly items. They were made of animal fat or beeswax, with some cultures even using exotic materials such as fish to light the darkness. It wasn't until the development of paraffin wax in 1830 that candles became cheap and readily available. Candles weren't colored until the invention of paraffin wax, and once they were, the practice of candle magic exploded, fueled by hoodoo practice and books such as the Master Book of Candle Burning. Prior to this advancement in candle making, candle magic didn't really have a color component, as candles weren't dyed. Witches saw the usefulness of bringing color magic into their practice through candles, and a whole new branch of witchcraft was expanded upon, and flourished in the following years. One only has to look at the magical properties of herbs to see more resourcefulness in action. In Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs, 149 herbs that have magical properties of attracting love are listed. So, when I was going through this manuscript with my editor, I was asked, how do you know it's 149 herbs? And I'm like, I counted each one of those. So, so you don't have to count them. I counted them. But the upshot of all this is that tools are helpful in your magic, but they are not required. And I've seen some people on Instagram and social media talking about how you have to have tools, that it can't just all be intention, and I respectfully disagree with that. But what I want to say is that if you do not have the tools, but you find that you benefit from having tools and components with your magic, that should not keep you from casting your spell if you need to. What I want people to do, like in this video, I can give you all sorts of things that you could do to substitute for stuff. So say if you don't have incense, but you do have teas, you can, in order to do cleansing or any kind of protection that you would usually use with like a smoke bundle, you could brew the tea and use the steam. Like if you don't have, like when I first moved here and I was setting up protection around the apartment and around the place that we're living, I didn't have the crystals that I normally would have used. And so I just went out and I found stones that were on the ground around this space that would have a connection to this space. And I just marked them with bind runes and sigils using a marker, and use those instead, because I wanted to get into that earth element and that grounding element and that the protectiveness that comes from the earth element. So what I want to talk about right now is not so much as giving you suggestions on what you can use to replace certain things, but to talk about changing how you view and expanding your mind and thinking differently when you approach your spell work. So that if you want to do a spell that and you don't have a certain component, that you then look at, okay, let's look at the correspondences of this item that I would use and see what has similarities that I could use instead. Like I prefer to use essential oils for a lot of stuff, and all my essential oils are back in Wyoming. Right now, when I was doing my hexing oil against the funding for ice, what I did is I created an oil with herbs that I had in my uh, pantry. Um, put the herbs with olive oil, heated it up, did it that way. It's not my preferred way. I prefer to use essential oils with things. I prefer like room sprays and this stuff and the like, but I was like, I work with what I have on hand. And I want you to know that it's okay to work with what you have on hand. If you don't have a very specific crystal, if you don't have a specific herb, it's okay to substitute. Because first off, magic is personal, and you might find that a spell calls for a component that you don't work well with, that you don't want to have anything to do with, and that's okay. Find something that fits the same energetic signatures that the spell calls for, but with things that you have a better resonance with. That's okay. Um, taking some time to look up correspondences, to also divine and do a little meditative practice to see what else I could use. Tapping into your intuition are all ways that you can then start building a personal apothecary of items that work for you and help strengthen and focus your magic and your spell casting. So, what I'm just trying to encourage people with this witches and like with this chapter on resourcefulness is to understand that what we do is we're witches, we're versatile, we're resilient. We don't have to fit into these boxes and on these checklists of, okay, you need this, and this in order to cast this spell. Because again, it's about intention, what you intend. These components help focus that attention, help you get a clearer picture in mind of what it is that you want to do, and help you keep limits, or keep in your mind what limits you're putting on that spell, and also help you in the physical space do things, visualize and actualize things like dispelling of the energy that's left over from casting a spell when you get rid of spell components, containing your spell in a certain space, like when you're using jar spells or pouches, releasing that energy when you burn a piece of paper with a sigil on it, or when you use your you let it go, flush somebody's name down the toilet, and also with creating those boundaries and barriers when you see the smoke going around you. So I don't want to discourage people from using spell components. I want to encourage people to work their magic in the way that is most comfortable with them, because when you feel comfortable in your magic, you will feel more powerful. Your spells will be more powerful, and they will get you to where you want to go and see your goals faster and better than if you're following some spell down to the letter and you don't really feel confident or comfortable in it. So that's all I wanted to say today. I hope that you all are having a great Chinese New Year. Making sure that you eat some dumplings, that you don't sweep your floor, don't throw away trash, so that you can keep that good energy and your abundance and everything in your house. And yeah, so just remember, how you practice your witchcraft, as long as it's true to you, that's what's important. And as long as you aren't hurting people. That's a whole nother conversation we can have later of ethics in spellcasting. But that's all I wanted to say, and I hope you all have a great rest of the day. Bye.